Okay, so the last category of sedimentary, of marine sediments that we're going to talk about, sedimentary rock, is hydrogenous, or from the water. Now, hydrogenous means that you had a water that was saturated in some sort of chemical, and then for some reason that chemical came out of solution and precipitated as a mineral, or as a particle, and then those particles were lithified into a sedimentary rock. So this would be an example of chemical weathering rather than physical weathering at the initial process. You have chemical weathering, the ions of the rock are dissolved, or the shell or whatever, are dissolved into water, and then that water is moved, and then when it gets to a situation where it is favorable for the mineral to be precipitated out, it does so. A good example of this is oolitic limestone. Now, oolitic limestone, we've got several pictures, and an ooid is each one of these small little circles, or spheres is what they are actually, that you see in these pictures. So an ooid is simply a round ball of calcium carbonate. And we said calcium carbonate forms in shallow water, shallow warm waters, and that's true. So you can go and actively see this happening if you go to the Bahamas or somewhere like that. It's a nice place to be a geologist. So what happens is you have these waters that are dissolved, that are very rich in calcium carbonate, because you have had dissolution from calcium-based rocks and minerals on land, and those have been dumping into the ocean. Now, some little small mineral or shell fragment or grain of sand acts as a nucleus, and you can actually see these little centerpieces in some of the ooids in the bottom left photo. That's a magnified photo. And it acts as a snowball. So what happens is these little pieces start rolling around in the wave action, and they start collecting these layers of calcium carbonate. Once they get large enough to be too large to stay in the water column, again because of their size and weight, they fall out to the seafloor, and after billions and trillions of them end up on the seafloor through weight, they go through the lithification process to turn into a rock, and you get what's called an oolitic limestone. So this is an example of how you can get sedimentary rock from water. The same is true for evaporites, for instance. Another thing that seawater is highly dissolved with is salt ions, sodium, chlorine. And most of you use table salt, I'm sure. And the way that is mined is you flood these shallow areas with ocean water and then allow evaporation to remove the water, which increases the amount of salts, of sodium and chlorine, and then they come out of dissolution and precipitate minerals. So that's another example of a hydrogenous sediment.